All right, Coach. So long road trip, but a fruitful one. 3 for 3 on the trip, despite challenges like playing all the freshmen, neither of our top two scorers being available. So now that you've had a little bit of time to process it, what kind of growth did you see from your squad on this trip?
Yeah, no, it was a great trip. I think when you are down your two leading scorers, your point guard, you're possibly All American. There's some thought of let's just win one or two and get back here and regroup. And I just was proud of them for not letting that happen. And I think the freshmen stepped up. They got more playing time. The hope is that that gets us better as the year progresses. I don't think anybody of the guys who play this weekend has even came close to scratching what they're capable of. So individually, we have all these things that we can get better at, and we don't even think we're close to playing well. But to do that and keep winning is nice, because you'd rather learn while winning than learn by losing. And simultaneously, we were 2 possessions away from going 1-2. But we were also a couple possessions away from having 3 straight 20-point wins. We led pretty much the whole weekend. We got up 20-ish in every game, and we just didn't close the door the way we needed to have easy wins. And in some ways, I think that's a sign of the youth. But I think that's better than if we would have just gone out and won all of them by 20, because there's so much that we need to get better at. And it almost felt like after the weekend breaking it down, it felt like the first games of the season, not middle of the season, just because the team's so new, brand new. There were so many notes we had, so many things we need to improve on, so many things we have to get better at. And I think that's exciting to have a week of practice. Normally by now you're kind of bored of practice and just want to play the games, but we need it. And yeah.
A little bit of a different analogy for you. Last night, Georgia's up by who knows how much. They're getting in all these freshmen, all these underclassmen who have never played on this stage. And while you guys weren't playing in the national championship, looking forward, making a playoff run is something that you certainly want to do. Mm-hmm. How do you think that all those underclassmen playing and those type of minutes now kind of reinvigorates them to go just that much harder in practice and gives you that depth down the road?
100%. It really feels a little deja vu from last year, in the sense of last year around this time we had a bunch of injuries. We played a bunch of guys that might have not gotten in. Some of those guys that might have not gotten in ended up being key players down the stretch run once we got back healthy. I think the same thing kind of happened. Obviously, the difference is we have a better record right now, but I'm not so sure we're that much better right now, and I'm not so sure that we can't replicate some of the things we did last year down the stretch by using this, what happened as a growth moment to help us at the end when we do get healthy. Because similar to last year, no one's done. Everyone's going to be back. So this is one of those things where it's a great opportunity to kind of see in extended stretches who is going to be on the court with those guys that have already proven and established themselves.
Well, Coach, like we talked about, got away with 3 wins, but it was precariously close a couple of times to not being that way. So what do you make of those second half struggles against Wayne and Saginaw Valley as far as like maybe causes and then how you address those?
Yeah, I think they're a little different. I think Wayne, we just kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit and didn't play very well, and that one to me is a little harder. Saginaw, I thought we just ran out of energy. We played a third game on a road trip. Those are usually losses, especially in the GLIAC, and you just kind of chalk them up as losses usually when you're down there, especially when you're at Northern and you have those travel. And so I think that one was a little easier. We had basically one true guard playing, true point guard, and 2 guards playing, and everyone else is kind of a wing. And I just thought we ran out of a little bit of juice. Wayne, that was probably more just, I thought offensively we just kind of stopped playing, got a little tight, got a little tentative. Saginaw to me was a little more about the energy stuff. And again, that's where we got to get better. And I think coming out of Christmas too, usually your team's a little more tired, and I was like playing more guys that first weekend out of Christmas knowing that they're a little out of shape, kind of like you would early in the year, and we just didn't have more guys to play.
But despite that, like we talked about right after the Saginaw Valley game, the guys were already like, hey, can't wait to get back to practice and so we can address this. What does that say about kind of the mentality and the character of this group, realizing the opportunity that they have in front of them and they're willing to put in that work to try and seize it?
Yeah, and I think it's it's a good testament to all the culture stuff and whatever else you want to use for that. We don't talk a ton about culture, but it's just one of those things when you have good people, it just kind of happens. But I think the other part of it is that kind of going back to that individual thing. And I don't think anyone's selfish in this way, but I think individually, nobody's happy with how they're playing. Like Max Weisbrod had one of the best weekends any true freshman could have. He's not happy. He thought he left a bunch of points out and didn't play his best. Dylan's, kind of emerging before our eyes as one of the best players in the league. He's not happy. He thinks he left 5, 6, 7 points a game out there. And then all the rest of the guys are just trying to get better. And I thought Carson is an awesome player for us. He had a terrible 3-game stretch shooting the ball. He's going to have to be better and is going to be better. And so I think the nice part is, even though we won, I don't think individually people were happy with what they did. And I think that keeps you a lot more hungry, just because no one went out there and played a career weekend. Everyone's going to play a lot better than they played that weekend at some point in their careers. So I think that's the kind of fun part where I think we know how much room we have to get better. And so, yeah, the winning's great. I'm really thankful we won and really happy we won. But now it's like, okay, we got to get a lot better, because I don't think anyone is playing up to their capabilities yet. And so if we can just focus on getting better and improving, I think that's the key. And everyone talks about it, but it's really hard when you're older to do that. But when you have all these young guys, they know they're going to get better. So the growth mindset or whatever, like, they know that. They know they're not playing well yet, and they know how much better they're going to be. So I don't even have to tell them or motivate them, because they're the ones that are frustrated with how they're playing, not me.
So looking ahead to this weekend's matchup versus Michigan Tech, as we can see by Max's shirt, this is an emotional game not only for the players but for fans and the whole communities of Marquette and Houghton. How are you preparing your team to kind of deal with that emotional aspect of the game, where it's going to be a big anticipation looking into the matchup?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's always been fun. It's been kind of the most fun part of being the coach at Northern is you have this 1-2 games every year that are kind of special, and then last year we got a third one. And I think the odd part for us is we really like them, like, as coaches. Like, those are the coaches in the league I like the best, and I would call them friends, and all of our players know each other. I think the rivalry has always been special, and it will be regardless. But right now, on the basketball side, on the men's side, everybody's from the same state. I think of the starters, of the 10 starters in the game, it's possible 9 of them will all be from Wisconsin. Everyone grew up playing each other. We have matchups where in 4th grade, the 4th grade state title in Wisconsin was decided between one of the better players at Tech and one of the better players at Northern. And I think that'll make the rivalry even more fun going forward, because at least my first few years here, the players, it wasn't as big as you'd think, because they didn't know their players other than, hey, you're supposed to whatever. And I don't think, at least on our end, I don't think it comes from a dislike standpoint at all. I think it actually comes from, hey, I played AU with that guy, I really like him. God, I want to beat him because I really like him. And I think sometimes those rivalries are actually, it's like your friend or your brother. You'd much rather, get into a tussle with them than some random person. So I think in a lot of ways, the rivalry is only increasing. And, obviously, it is what it is. I mean, we ended their season last year. They were the first team out of the NCAA tournament. They lost a home game in the semis to us. They're not going to be happy about that, nor should they be. And was that fun? Yeah, it was fun. But at the same time, they're going to try to do that exact same thing to us this year, and they're going to have plenty of chances. They have us now. They have us the last game of the year. We're a possible NCAA tournament team, and I'm sure they want to return that favor, and we want them not to.
So, having addressed the rivalry, let's dig into the basketball. What do you think of this Tech matchup?
Yeah, I think, I feel they've gotten really, kind of unlucky. We talk about, how close we were this weekend to going 1-2. They were equally close to sweeping the same trip that we swept. And, the differences between the two teams are really small if you look at the game-by-game matchup, because we play almost the same schedule. We'd win close, they'd lose close. And so I think that despite the records looking like there's this huge gap between the two teams, I think it's much closer than what you would think if you actually peel back the layers and look at it game by game. The biggest thing they're going through is they're really young. right now we're really young. So in a lot of ways, I think we actually might be a touch younger than them if you look at it. In the sense of we probably have even less experience in our group than they do right now. But the one advantage we have is our freshmen are redshirt freshmen for the most part, so that at least they had gone through a college season before where they're true freshmen. Nobody wants them in the conference tournament. One of the nice parts about beating them would be to keep them out of it. I don't want to see them anywhere near the conference tournament this year because they're going to get better and better and better and better, and they have shooting all over the place, and they are one of the scariest teams in the league because of that. So I think right now, not just our goal, but our whole league's goal as a group should be, let's make sure we keep them out of the top 8 so none of us have to see them around the conference tournament, because I think they're really close to turning the corner and getting to the top of the league. And if you look back at Tech basketball, this is something they've done before. They regroup, they play a bunch of young guys. Those young guys become juniors and seniors, then they win the conference. And, again, we're going to try to not let them win the conference because we'd like to win the conference. But I would anticipate this to be, a one-year blip as far as record goes, and them to be in the top of the league from here on out because they have great players and great culture, great coaches. So, again, hopefully we can keep them out of the conference tournament because I don't want to see them.
Well, some people we do want to see would be guys like Brian and Max.
Yeah,
We started to hear
those guys, yeah.
We started to hear kind of some grumblings, while we were on the road about potential of them potentially coming back, getting healthy. Do you have any updates on that or anything you'd be willing to share in regards to when we may expect to see them again?
Yeah, it's not even like I'm trying to hide it. They're both close. Either of them could possibly play this weekend. It's just kind of that day-to-day thing. We kind of caught a break with only one game this week, so we get that extra. Instead of playing Thursday, we get an extra 2 days to try to get them back. We're trying. I think they're both going to play again sooner rather than later. Is that this Saturday? Is that next Thursday? Hopefully not any longer than that. I think they're close. So, and then the other thing is when they come back, we got to be smart. It's not going to be like, both of them rely so much on their athleticism. We're not going to just throw them out there and let them go 40 and run around. They're going to need to ease into it a little bit. But I think both are close. And, with Brian, we thought he was probably done for the year, so the fact he's close to coming back is exciting, and happy to have those guys back. And if they're not, we'll try to get one more for them and keep it the ship afloat while they're out.
That's it. I got one more question. So looking ahead even farther in the future in the Tech game, Northern has recently announced that they're going to be moving basketball into Van Etten Arena. Can you tell me about what that's going to mean for the team and for the future of the program?
Yeah, I think it's great. One of the things that I think has been one of the hardest challenges here is if you look at the history of, the men's basketball program, it was dominant for a long, long, long time. And then the last 20 years haven't made an NCAA tournament, et cetera, et cetera. That coincides exactly with the Barry. And I think, I would never have said this before it got announced, but I think it's the biggest challenge here is you don't practice in the arena you play in. And historically, we've been better since I've been here on the road than we have at home. That doesn't happen. Now this year we've played well at home, and hopefully we can keep that rolling. But it is a massive, massive, game-changing improvement for us to be able to practice where we play. On top of that, the crowds, I think the more you win, the more people show up. But if it's a tighter space, it's going to be louder even with the same amount of people coming. And then I think what's going to happen is it's going to be this effect of more people show up. Now it's more fun because it's louder, so more people show up, and you get more and more and more. Plus, I think we can go back to getting some high school games in here, which gets more people on Northern's campus. Overall, I think it's a massive win, and, Rick, I thought, he's been around and knows Northern better than anyone, and right away that was one of the first things he said is we need to do this. And I think it's going to be huge. And now hopefully we got another year and a half in there. We have a 9-game win streak at home. Hopefully we can send the Barry out and break the jinx, or whatever you want to call it, the curse or the jinx, and end it on a good note with some fond memories.